Okay, so where we are now, we can see the signpost there with the marking of the Cuckoo Way, and that's what this walk is. Now, this is further into the walk, and the reason why, I just wanted to point out that I'm actually putting this video out on May the 9th, 2025. You may see it at a different date to that, and that is a significance to the walk, as you'll see later into the video, or 250 years ago. With that, let's move on to the start of the Cuckoo Way. Chesterfield is a market town and it's famous for its crooked spire, the largest church in Derbyshire and often mistaken for a cathedral. The Church of St Mary's and All Saints is Chesterfield's best known landmark and well worth a visit. Chesterfield has its origins to the Roman times. Chesterfield is Roman for open field near the camp. Well, morning folks, this is the first long distance walk I'm doing since my knee surgery. It's a bit of a tester to see how far I can do, and I'm not actually camping on this one, I'm actually staying in guest houses. The route we're doing, as you can see behind me, is the Cuckoo Way, and that starts in Chesterfield and goes all the way over to West Stopwith, which is by the River Trent, just slightly north of Gainsborough. The route is 46 miles, as the sign says along here, and this is one of the original canal paths in England. And I'll talk more about that along the way. So we'll be following the Chesterfield Canal 99% of the way. It is a disused waterway at the moment. There is a society that are trying to reopen it, and they're doing bit by bit, as we'll see as we walk its length. How much we can do, this is all this route is about. So since my knee joint replacement 6 months ago, I thought this is the opportunity to get out and try and do a walk. 46 miles. We're doing it over, I think, 4 days. So not that far, about 11, 12 miles a day on average. And then we'll finish off at West Stopwith. At the moment, we're actually not on the Chesterfield Canal. Behind me is the River Rother, which is a 27-mile stretch. Starts at Clay Cross in Derbyshire, and it goes all the way up to Rotherham. And here we go, start of the Cuckoo Way, 46 miles to go this way. Let's get going. I've walked 300 or 400 metres and already taken a layer off. It's getting quite warm. Got probably about another 400 metres before we actually reach the Chesterfield Canal. Today, as we start to walk towards the canal, we will pass the Tapton Lock Visitor Centre, then over to Longford Lane, then on to the Transpeak Trail, eventually passing Renshaw Hall on our left. Then we'll head up to Rother Valley Park. We'll get up to a place called Kilmarsh near the Norwood Tunnel. And then I'll head off to where I'm staying tonight, which is the Days Inn next to the M1 services. So here we are. This is the point where the Rother River connects up with the edge of the Chesterfield Canal. So as we can see, it flows out here. Now, like all canals, they need a water source to be able to flow. And this is the point where we are. So now we'll head up all the way up to the River Trent, which is by the West Stopwith Basin. But this is the Chesterfield Canal, where it meets up with the River Rother. Our next stop is the Visitor Centre. I think it's called Tapton Lock. So this is bridge number 1, Tapton Mill Bridge on the Chesterfield Canal. As you can see, we've got Lockgate. Through this walk, we're walking in Derbyshire, Nottinghamshire, and we finish just on the Lincolnshire border. So from here to a Norton Tunnel, generally most of the canal has been restored by the Chesterfield Canal Trust, as we will see, because that's where we're walking today. Then alongside the other side of Norwood Tunnel, there are sections that are being restored at the moment. I believe there's only about 7 or 8 miles of the whole canal that's actually still to be restored. Does anybody actually walk their dogs anymore? Or they just exhaust thickening pustules. The Cuckoo Way is a historical trail associated with the Cuckoo Dyke, which was an important waterway used for drainage and navigation. Okay, so this is a paddle club. They take disabled people out onto the canal canoeing. And they're actually just getting a walk today. The Mayor of Chesterfield and actually the Lord Lieutenant, the representation of the King, is here. We're going to continue on. So I wonder what you see on these flight walks. Bumping into royalty. I was just talking to the driver of the Lord Lieutenant. Their car is a Lotus SUV, huge thing. Paid for by the King, I guess. The King couldn't be here because he was actually playing carrots. Right, let's keep going. So we're just reaching Brimington Wharf. So this would have been a connection point where the boats could connect to the road. Coal from the roads could be then transported onto the Cuckoo Boats. I'll talk about more about the Cuckoo Boats later on. Along this 46-mile trail, we will come across some of the earliest staircase locks ever built, 250 years ago. An underground canal system that was created to bring coal up to the surface, as well as picturesque landscapes in a rural location. The trail follows a route that passes through the historical areas for coal mining and industry of the region. The Cuckoo Boats, which were 70 feet by 7 feet on the canal, were built somewhat differently to the usual canal boats as we often see on the canals today. They were built for short distances, operated by a crew of 2, but with no engines, pulled by horses that walked the same towpath that the Cuckoo Way follows today. Mile 2. 2 miles down, 44 to go. Throughout the 19th century, the canal was very successful. In addition to large amounts of coal, it also carried agricultural goods, iron, pottery and ale, plus stone for the reconstruction of the Houses of Parliament. Blue Bank Lock. And sculpture there, some flower arrangement coming out of vase. So this lock seems to be a little bit more popular. A couple of fishermen, a lot of people seem to be walking around here. This is Dixon's Lock. Here we are. This is Lock 5. There's also a cafe here and it's a great spot to stop. We're about 3.5, 4 miles in. So Hollingwood Hub, Katie's Coffee Shop. Right, we'll stop here for a little break. The Chesterfield Canal was promoted by James Brinsley. He was one of the earliest canal engineers in England. He worked on the building of the Bridgewater Canal, which was regarded as the first modern British canal. Brinsley played an essential role in shaping the way canals were built during the Industrial Revolution from the mid-1700s. James created a template for the narrow canal system when he chose to build narrow locks on some of the biggest English canals, but with a growing reputation for his essential canal building, he was greatly in demand, where much of the work to the Chesterfield Canal fell to the assistant John Varley. The line, known locally as Cuckoo Dyke, officially opened in 1777, 5 years after Brinsley's death. The 46 miles of the Chesterfield Canal along the way is negotiated by 2 tunnels and a combination of 65 narrow gauge and broad gauge locks. These hark back to a decision in 1775, when it was agreed that although the canal should be narrow from Chesterfield to Retford, it should be built on a larger scale between Retford and the River Trent to accommodate wider beam river traffic along that section. Now heading along the canal. Along the left hand side of where we are at the moment, can't see, there's not a lot of scrubland in between us, is actually Box Hall. It's actually named after Richard Barrow, for he joined the Industrial Revolution. It's from 1787 to 1865, but Richard Barrow took over the lease of Staveley Forge from his brother George in 1843. He gave him control of all the mines and beds of coal and ironstone in the manor of Staveley. Staveley is the buildings that we can see a bit further up in front of us. Barrow expanded the business in the early 1840s, clearing away most of the plant, erecting 2 new furnaces and building the foundations of what would later become the Staveley Coal and Iron Company. Now, Staveley, you may have recognised the name. Well, if I say Stanton and Staveley, or if I say manhole covers, of course there are Stanton and Staveley manhole covers all over the UK. I've seen them as far up as Inverness and as far down as Kent and Cornwall, and I think I've seen them in Wales as well. And they're more particular around this area. For in Derbyshire is the Stanton Ironworks and the Staveley Ironworks, and this was part of Richard Barrow's big business. He used to do pig iron, and from pig iron they created all these furnaces. Now the canal was perfect because they could transport their iron onto the canal all the way up to the River Humber and beyond. Stanton and Staveley. Unfortunately, both works are no longer here anymore. Stanton Iron Works in the lower part of Derbyshire, not far from where I work actually. Most of it's all gone. Some of the buildings are still there. After the making iron, they actually made concrete products, and they still do make concrete products there today. But as an ironworks, it's no longer there. And again, with Staveley, there is an ironworks still here called Prestige Ironworks, but the actual original furnaces back in the 1840s are no longer here. Anyway, we shall continue on. So at the moment, my leg's feeling okay. Walked, I think, about 4.5 miles so far, but at the moment feeling fine. 12 miles a day we're walking approximately. It's just a pedestrian bridge, this one, and the River Rother is just down there. So a little roundabout here. Just as we get around this corner, we should come to Staveley Basin, which was a connection point. So when I mentioned earlier about the pig iron from Staveley getting onto the waterways, that's where they would have done so, in the Staveley Basin. So probably have a road by the side of it, get the iron to there and then onto the boats to head either towards Chesterfield and beyond, or head towards the River Trent and then onto the Humber and towards the coast. So here is Staveley Basin. It's actually a lot bigger than I expected it to be. The footpath is closed. So I have done stretches of the Chesterfield Canal in the past, mainly around Worksop area, just sections of it. But I've also done other walks in this area. There's not much happening. I presume that's going to be some sort of visitor centre or something similar to it. So this is the Staveley Basin. Now, I believe, it's quite a large basin. The Chesterfield Canal Trust are working on it. They are trying to make the whole canal available for navigation. It looks like they're developing this whole little area. It'd be nice to see it when it's fully completed, when they've managed to get the whole canal from all the way from Chesterfield to the River Trent. There's a few miles that still need to be sorted out, and actually we're coming to a section of that soon. There was 2 tunnels on the canal. One is the Norwood tunnel. I'll talk about more about that later on. And then there's also another tunnel. I'm not sure where that one is. Actually, we'll come across it obviously further on. I think it's towards the end. And then we've also got some developments that have happened in the past where they've discarded the canal, and we can actually start to see it in a moment. But we can see in front where the fencing is, the canal disappears. Now we can see beyond it there is a lock that needs redeveloping, and there's a board there that we can see some more information about once we get there. So this is the Staveley Town deal and what's happening. They're enabling works consisting of creating the site compound area, widening the road entrance, diverting footpaths away from the work area, and constructing a new multi-user bridleway bridge. We can actually see the bridge there. So although the canal finishes here, there is just the path, and then it reconnects here. And then just beyond we can see the lock. Still needs reconnecting. And I think where we can see that bridge, the other side of that, the canal is there again. So we will find it again, but we will continue on the Cuckoo Way. And this section, I think there's about 3 or 4 miles here that the canal disappears, comes back, disappears, comes back. But we'll follow it. And you can see the amount of work that's going into doing this. Obviously it must be coming to a price. So any donations to it, I'm sure are very well appreciated. And I think I might put a donation into it myself by the time I get to the end.
Looking that direction behind me is where the actual original route in the canal is, and I presume that's where they're going to rejoin it. But the actual path has moved away slightly. But I actually have noticed something. Spin the camera around. Our first Cuckoo Way sign. We only walked 5 miles of it and we've come to our first sign. So that's what it's meant to look like. But it's not really a difficult one. I don't think they look like cuckoos, do they? Or like vultures or seagulls.
So I think the actual reroute of the canal is actually going to go underneath us where we are, because that's what this bridge has been built for. So I'm guessing the canal is going to go down that direction.
I think the Coltets, the 2 of them.
Okay, we've actually found a better looking sign, a newer sign. Still the same symbol. So the 2 cuckoos, the Cuckoo Way. As we continue on, again we've got a dry bed canal, but these are the sections that's going to make it easier to dig up because there's a bed to dig up from. Although getting machinery here might be a little bit of a difficulty. We're just about past Renshaw and now we're heading on to the park. And we've got the Pennine trail on that left hand side again. So it looks like an old lock. Not looking very healthy at the moment. The wall looks like it's going to cave in. There's a tree growing through it as well. So where are we at the moment for information? Trans-Pennine Trail on the left. Well, I presume this iron bridge from the Renshaw estate and the furnace they had there. Well, here we have an old remnant of the old rail route that used to be along this Trans-Pennine route. Carrying on along the Cuckoo Way. Now you can see on the right hand side the actual canal has actually dried up, but there is still a canal bed. So over there, just 10 metres away, we've got the Trans-Pennine Trail. Now actually that was opened about 1999 and it goes coast to coast, actually starts at Stockport, up north of Liverpool, and then heads all the way across, finishes off at a place called Hornsea, near the River Humber, I believe. Now, alternatively, they have a southern route, and it starts at Chesterfield, where we started today, and finishes at Leeds. So if you go Across the coast to coast, it's 207 miles long. And if you go from Chesterfield to Leeds, I think it's around 77 miles. But we're continuing on the Cuckoo Way. There are still remnants, even though we've just got a dried canal bed. There are still little remnants we see along the way that remind us that there was a canal once here. On our right hand side, just up there, we've got a place called Renshaw, a little village. Not much has happened there, I don't think. But on the left hand side, can't really see much at the moment. I'm not sure if we will, but beyond those trees, there is a great lake, and beyond that is Renshaw Hall. I'll tell a little bit about that. Renshaw Hall is a country house in Renshaw, the parish of Eckington in Derbyshire. It's a Grade 1 listed building and has been the home of the Sitwell family for nearly 400 years. The hall is southeast of Sheffield and north of Renshaw village, which is on our right. The house was built in 1625 by George Sitwell, who in 1653 was High Sheriff of Derbyshire. The Sitwell fortune was made as colliery owners and ironmasters from the 17th to the 20th centuries. So as you can see from by these pictures, the hall is quite a big building and has had substantial alterations over the years. So between the Sitwells also had the Sacheverell Sitwell. So he exploited the mineral wealth beneath the estate, some coal, but chiefly iron ore, and built a blast furnace in partnership with his mother's second husband, Henry Quickport. The blast furnace within the Renshaw estate, it became the largest ironworks in Derbyshire, producing pig and bar iron, castings, nails, saws, and other goods for sale to tradesmen around Eckington and in London, where he sent iron via the River Idle from Baldry and by road. Obviously, I presume he used the canal at some points as well to send it on to the River Trent and down to Chesterfield. As we continue walking along the path past Renshaw, now we can see actually it was a dry bed earlier. Now it's actually we've got a bit of water in it, a bit sludge there. So I think this is an old lock gate here. And then we've actually got this side, we've got some water again. A bit swampy, but it's water. As we go under 18 bridges, see when I said about we've met up with the water again. We've met up with a lot of litter and then it dries up again just here. So some areas they've got more work to do than others. Obviously dried up areas like that, I've got to re-dig it out. And here's another reason why they can't build the canal on its original route, because they're now walking through a housing estate. This section all the way up to Norwood Tunnel I think is being rerouted. I think it's going to go like down that way. The other end of that housing estate, we can see them fields is where the actual new path will be. But in the meantime, we're walking this way up to the church. It's somewhere near here. Okay, so we're just reaching the B6058, and this is the point where we're going to leave it today. Now, I will show you where I'm staying tonight. It is the services station along the M1 near junction 30. I think it's called the Days Inn, and I think it was about £45 a night. And tonight being a weekend night, it's slightly more expensive. I think you can get it for about £36 a night, Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday. There is a possibility if you want to walk this route and you don't want to camp, then you can stay in guest houses and hotels along the way. Unfortunately, the only thing about today's night, although I'm leaving it here along the Cuckoo Way, the actual motel is 1.5 miles away from the actual route. So you've got to put that into consideration. When you're walking the route, you've got that extra bit to do. The actual trail is down there about 300 metres. But I'm going to turn right now, follow the road and get up to the motorway, cross over the bridge, and then we'll get to the service station. I'll switch it to the motel in a second. You'll be able to see what the motel looks like for 45 quid a night. And then I shall see you in about 30 seconds time as we do day 2 of the Cuckoo Way. Okay, so we've arrived where we're staying tonight. The Days Inn, junction 30 M1 services. So we're going to leave it tonight and I'll see you in the morning where we carry on day 2 of the Cuckoo Way. Well, good morning to you. Just a continuation of the trail, but for me it's day 2. Today we're heading towards Worksop. The other thing is my knee is still feeling good. It was a bit swollen last night when I got to the hotel. Rested and I'm feeling good at the moment, so hopefully we'll be able to continue and finish this one. Only time will tell. But at the moment, let's get down to Never Green, away from the housing estate, down to Norwood Tunnel, and I'll talk a little bit more about it when we get there. This is as I head to the Cuckoo Way from my accommodation last night. Anyway, let's get back onto the route. So we're at Harthill with Woodall Parish Council. Pillar box is VR Victoria, an older pillar box, over 100 years old. Right, okay, let's keep going. What an odd name for a new road. Gongoozler's Walk. Is that classed as wild camping? Putting your tent up in an allotment? Oh great, my nemesis, since I've had my knee done, stairs. Well, that and styles, struggling with them and all. Right, let's cross over the road and then we're heading down that way. So we're walking into Kilmarsh now. We've just crossed over, I think it's called Bridge Street, and as you can see, that is the last remaining part of the canal here. We are on actually the towpath that fits to the canal, and the actual canal veers off in a moment, and that's the way we're going to head. But this is the section that they're going to reroute. Obviously, they're not going to put it here. So not far from the Pennine trail that we were walking on, it will be rerouted from there, and then it'll go through the edge of the Rother Valley Country Park, and it's heading towards it's like a lake, I can't remember what it's called, put it up on the screen. But when we get up there, that is where the proposal for the reroute. Now, the route has already been approved. The only problem is, you need a lot of money to build it. Now, they have got, because obviously the water levels are quite high, they have got some sort of lock system they're going to build up that way. And we're going to head over to that way in a moment, move away from the Cuckoo Way. I'll tell you what it's all about when we get up there. So we'll come to the road in a moment, and then that crosses over, and then it heads over to where the original canal was. But the lake we're heading towards is Nevermore Lake, and that's where the proposal of this interesting lock is going to be put, if they can afford it. So as you can see where I am now, it's really built up here, and it's not the place where a canal could be built or rebuilt. The actual road pit here is the original part of the canal, and then we cross over here, and we should, in a few, probably about 100 metres, pick up with the canal again. So when we went on the Pennine Trail, and we had the canal by the side of it, that's where the new proposal is. To move away from there, go to the back end of the Rother Valley Country Park, and then it comes out next to this Nevermore Lake, which we're going to come to in a moment. But the actual route of the canal is to my right, and that's the original route. We'll see it more clearly in a moment. Then it feeds back onto the canal, and then it's the bit where the Norwood Tunnel happens, is the bit they're trying to really work out. So directly behind me is where the Chesterfield Canal came, and it turns right, which is this pathway here. Now we can see this here, we've got a big lake here, that's Nevermore Lake, and we've got this section at the front here. Now from what I gather, the new canal, or the proposal for the new canal, will feed along here, around the edge of the lake, and that's where this new lock system are going to build. I'll show you what they intend to build. It's quite impressive if they can pull it off.
Just here between Nevermore Lake and Meadowgate Lake is where they plan to put the new canal section to avoid the housing estate at Kilmarsh, as this was built where the original canal flowed. But where we are is at a low point, and to connect to the old canal, which from here is about 250 to 500 metres away, the canal will have to climb 17 metres in height So the plan is to build either a set of 6 locks named the Moorhouse Locks, which will gain the height, or a better idea is to build a canal lift, similar to the canal lift near Falkirk, Scotland, that connects the Forth and Clyde Canal. The canal lift will be a tourist attraction, and with the lift they will build a cafe and other attractions to this area. The lift would be splendid, a 21st century addition to this 250-year-old canal, as you can see from the drafted drawings, but like most things, it comes at a price. Can the Chesterfield Canal Trust raise the funds to connect the new canal section to the old Chesterfield Canal? Let's hope they can, and it's built in the near future. Okay, let's head back to the old canal and the Cuckoo Way.
Oh, and we're back out. And there you go, here's the canal, the actual bed of the canal. Now, I don't think it actually meets up here. We're slightly off. So there's a boundary just up here, about 50 metres on our left. Well, it's not going to be easy to see with all this overgrowth. So as you can see, it's quite steep down there. And that's what these 6 Moorhouse locks will do. Will bring it up to this height. Or canal lift that are intended. So this is the point where the canal, so that it would come out just about here and then reconnect at the original canal just about here. So as I said, it is probably going to be an expensive do. The plan was originally that in 2027, so 2 years from when I'm making this, was the date that the canal would have been 250 years old. Unfortunately, they don't think that's going to happen now because the amount of funding they've got to do is 2 years away and there's still a lot of work to do. They've got about 5 miles worth of canal work still to work on. And although that's the one part connecting up to this part of the canal here, there's the other part, and it's probably the more expensive part, is the Norwood tunnel section, which we're going to head to in about 2 miles. And I'll show you all about the Norwood tunnel, what they'll do to propose to actually get past there. Once you get past there, from the other end of the Norwood tunnel, all the way to the actual connection with the River Trent, that section's already done. So it's only these last few miles to complete the whole canal. Okay, so we can just make out behind this foliage the water and where the canal is going to go to, and this is the bottom part of the Rother Valley Country Park. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better now, so you should be able to see the lakes down there and also possibly the potential where the route's going to be. As we continue on, actually I just bumped into a guy, and he lives in Worksop, and he's actually doing the Cuckoo Way, but he's doing it in stages, day walk sort of thing. So, and it was his last part, but he's just giving me some valuable information about, one, the Cuckoo Boat that we're looking for. Where we're staying tonight, we're staying at the Lockkeeper Hotel that's directly on the edge of the canal. The Cuckoo Boat in the summer months is moored outside it. It's the only Cuckoo Boat on the canal. There is one original Cuckoo Boat, which is moored up near of the Trent and Mersey Canal at the start, Runcorn, Liverpool direction. This one is a recreated one that was created, stopped around 2007, if I remember rightly. Hopefully we'll get to see that. Well, I've been told if it's not there, it's at the Shire Oaks Marina, which we'll get to that marina before we get to the Lockkeeper. So one way or another, we should see that one today. So this is the Norwood Wharf. As you can see, it's quite wide here, but I think looking at it, the wharf would have been a place where the boats could have turned around. Some of these boats would have been 70 feet long. Now on that side there is some building works, industrial works on that side. There's that fence, and there's a bit further on as we look here that it slopes down. So I reckon they've just filled in that section, so that probably went back a bit further when the canal was actually here. But the interesting thing is, what's these for? So we've got these little bits that stick out, and I can't really tell what they're for. I was thinking maybe a lock gate, but if you've got a wharf, you wouldn't have a lock gate. There's another one there, And there's two over there. Now I did think that this gap between here and here is maybe a tie-off point, and the boat went between, which probably looks about not 70 feet, it's probably more like 45 feet, but it's on a curve, so if you want to load your boat up, you don't want it to be on a curve, you want it to be flat on. So interesting to know what these things might be. Now as you can see, there are some pieces of metal that's probably been cut away just here, and the same on that side. So there could be some sort of like railings of some form. So we're going to walk along this bit here. So this is obviously an interesting part of the canal. Oh, actually we'll see some here. So we are at the 12-mile point. So this milestone dedicated to Jet Walden, 1938, by his husband. So it's a memorial stone, but it is the 12-mile point along the canal. Again, as I say, we've got these points here. I haven't seen these on a canal before. I've walked quite a few canals, so I'm interested to know what these might be. Again, they've got some sort of pillar points there where they would have built some sort of railing type thing, or some sort of wrought iron, pig iron posts. Oh, we've got another mile post. What's this? So Chesterfield, 12.5 miles that way. 33.75 miles that way, and that's the way we're heading. Now as the canal is so low here, well actually I think we were actually in what was the original part of the canal. We've seen these reeds and that out. So I think this higher ground here is where the edge of the canal was. So that being where the horses would have walked, along that edge there. Because surely the ones who walked along here, because it's not wide enough to get horses down. As you can see, it's getting a little bit more overgrown around this area. The path is a lot narrower as well. So I'm not sure what this bridge is. What are we up to? Looks like a little bit overgrown, a lot of ivy on it. So it says 1833. So that's when this bridge was built. That's one of the more original, older bridges that have passed so far. I've got mother and her ducklings. She's a bit panicky about them all. They look quite young. Got to get level with dad. Oh, I believe these are the holding ponds. I think there's 5 or 6 of these as we continue up here. I think there's some buildings up here, so I'm guessing maybe some mill buildings, something like that. Okay, so we're continuing along, heading up this section along these buildings that are part of the canal. I can see this brickwork on our right hand side, and that for me looks like the original brickwork that would have been the edge of the canal. So what I'm standing on now is a path now, or a road, but was part of the canal before. And we can see further information to that, or further evidence to that, as we head further up this way. So as we continue along, we've got these ponds here. Now, I think that's one of the holding ponds on that side. Now, from what I gather, that's a mill there. It actually does say mill on that building. There would have been a mill wheel, so I'm guessing it may have come from that one. Okay, you can just see there's a great heron just alongside there, just waiting for its prey, or a fish that must be in this lake. I've just noticed on this side, moving across there, there's 2 black swans over there. Now they're rare. You don't see many black swans in this country. I think it's Australia they're renowned for, not for the UK. And actually, there's not just 2 black swans, they've got some little cygnet, 3 or 4 of them. As we look at the mill, you can see a couple of sculptures here. In fact, these aren't the only sculptures here. Interesting ones they are. And then we've got an old red telephone box with 2 stallions guarding it. So this is the mill, dates back to 1849. We've got some stags here. Also got an elephant there. Quite a few sculptures actually. So we just moved away from the mill house where the sculptures are, and I just noticed these up here. A lot more sculptures. 4 horses, all made of horseshoes. But then at the back we've got 3 elephants and a rhinoceros as well. They're like the sculptures around here. Now, I also noticed this area is very dominated of horses. When we think about the Cuckoo Way and how the boats were pulled by horses rather than having an engine, these horses here have a connection to the Cuckoo Way. Right, anyway, we're going to head back onto the trail, well, the Chesterfield Canal and the Cuckoo Way. We've got another one of these lakes here, big lake this one. We've also got quite a lot of white vans. It's a white van man convention. So this is a holding pond, but you can see this is quite a big one. Now the channel here, that would have fed down to the mill, so this would have been a holding pond of water, and then they can control the water by narrowing it out by going it down that way, and that would force the water down towards the mill, control it. Now you can see the original banks to what would have been the holding pond to connected to the canal continues where those trees are, which we're going to head to now. Okay, so as we head away from the holding ponds and the mill, the granary, just heading up, this path is the Cuckoo Way, but we're just going to take a slight diversion over to this bit on our right hand side. There is a significance to the Chesterfield Canal that is worthy of coming this way. Obviously, as you can see, it's not a well trodden path, but there is a path here for the same reason. On the right hand side we have a proper looking canal again. Okay, you might just about make it out now. So this is the west portal of the Norwood Tunnel. Now at the time, Norwood Tunnel, it is exactly the day that I'm putting this video out, although you may see it as a different date, is the 9th of May 2025. So it's actually 250 years ago to the day that the Norwood Tunnel was opened. Now, as you can see, the brickwork around the edge, it is a brick lined tunnel. Length is 1.449 miles, or I think that's 2,890 yards. And if you want it in feet and kilometers and centimeters, look it up, sorry to say. In 1907 there was a collapse in the tunnel about 50 meters in from this end, I believe, and that's because they built a colliery on the top, and the colliery subsided, and then that made the tunnel collapse. Now since then there has been a further, I believe, 2 more collapses in the tunnel, but overall the engineers go in there every 10 years to check it over, and they said it's actually quite good inside, seeing as it's 250 years old. The pointing looks like it was done yesterday. This is where the problem becomes with the Chesterfield Canal, because this is the western side and we're going to walk over towards the eastern side. Because it's blocked off, the Chesterfield Canal stops here and it starts again on the eastern side, and that's where it continues all the way up to the River Trent. The Canal Trust have a problem. If they want to reopen it, how do they get past this? Now there's 3 options. There is open this up again, fix it and reopen it. Do we build a new tunnel or do we go over? It is actually looking at the option of most likely to go over. The length, as I've said, is 1.5 miles. So they've got to build a lock system because we're going over the land, because this is a limestone ridge that the tunnel was built within. Will they build it over? Will they build it under? This is the question. They have got ideas for both, but it's which one makes sense. It would be best to try and open the Norwood Tunnel again, because at the time it was the actual longest canal tunnel in England and Wales. So this is the western portal. We're going to head over the top now and we'll head over to the eastern portal where we connect back with the canal. So we're heading on the limestone ridge of what the Norwood Tunnel is below us. Now you can hear to our left hand side, developed over the years, we have the M1 motorway. With 21st century technology, building a potential new tunnel would be reinforced, and mining in this area is obviously closed down. So there wouldn't be any further subsidence of the tunnel if they went down that route. We were going to continue along where potentially a new route would be built if they built it above water, but the problem being they would have to have a series of locks because we've climbed a few meters up to this point. So we will continue on underneath the motorway and head over towards the eastern portal.
So I'm thinking from where that bit of tree line is, to that fencing, is the path that the canal would come. And it comes along here, and now this section here along this tree line is an old dismantled railway. And then we've got this like ditch that continues part of this dismantled railway. So I would have thought this is the route. If they went over rather than under, this is the way they would go. And if we look at the map, so you can see the little arrow is where we are at the moment, and that embankment, which is obviously this embankment here. So the Cuckoo Way goes to our right just here and follows along this old embankment. So it would be obviously the better choice to go straight down this way. Now here's a path here. This is Route 6 of the cycle network. Anyway, we're going to walk back on the Cuckoo Way and follow what would, I presume, be the new proposed route that would, if we go over land to the final point of reaching the other side of the portal. If we head that way, now that's where I stayed last night, to the right of that, just where you can see the tree line edge with the poplar trees. There is Harthill Reservoir, and actually that was built for the Chesterfield Canal. Okay, so here we are. This is the eastern port, the Norwood tunnel. Again, closed up. So, is their proposal to build it, use the tunnel again? Is it to go over land, or is it to build a new tunnel? This is the biggest dilemma of the Chesterfield Canal Trust they have. But once they do, again, they connect the western side to the eastern side, then the whole canal can be opened up to the public once again. And we're going to move along and we're going to head on towards now, I believe it's called Kiverton Park, and then we'll continue along the canal. On our left here we've got the weir. So this is the weir that connects the Harthill Reservoir to the Chesterfield Canal. As I mentioned earlier, the Harthill Reservoir is the main water source to the Chesterfield Canal. It was built around, I think, 1771. This goes all the way up from where we started this second part of the walk today, where I stayed at the service station. That was near Harthill Reservoir, and it feeds all the way around the landscape and actually enters here into the canal. So we're just reaching Kiverton Bridge, or Kiverton Park. This is one of the, well, I think one of the oldest bridges along the canal. You can see it's had to have some support. There's some iron to support it, presumably because when it was originally built we didn't expect the volume of traffic that's passing through it now. There weren't many cars in 1770, well, none at all. Horse and cart were just passed over there, not a load of vehicles.
And now, as you can see, we've got a proper canal. As I mentioned, this is all being restored from here now to the River Trent. In October 1834, a tremendous fire destroyed the old Houses of Parliament. With the confidence of the age, it was decided that this was an opportunity to create a worthy home for the Parliament of a global, powerful nation. The result was the famous building we now see today, constructed from stone carried on the Chesterfield Canal. So where we're located now is the wharf where the stone for the world's most famous building was loaded onto horse-drawn narrowboats, each taking a load of 20 tons. The stone was from a quarry in the north of Anston, only 2 miles from where we are now. So just looking over there is, well, the remains of Thorpe Hall. And where we are now is a quarry. Okay, quarry remains. I just noticed there's actually one just back that way. You can just about make it out. Well, but you can quite clearly see that one. There was an archway, the old quarry. So I'm guessing that might be a lime kiln by the looks of it. Because, as I say, the one over there looks similar sort of shape. So this is Hawks Wood, and as I said, the quarry here obviously disused. There's a stream that runs down just so like around that area called Cuckoo Dyke. Now we're continuing on. Another bridge coming up. This will be Bridge 35. It's so nice here. There's hardly any other people walking up and down here, so I've really got the place to myself. The water's near enough still, a bit cloudy, but you can't ask for much more than this. Funny enough, it's just gone a bit quiet here, but the amount of bird noise I've been hearing along, all sorts. Okay, so this is the first of several locks now, all very close together. Each one is going to drop the water level. There's 2 before we get to this bridge. So that's lock 20, this is lock 21, and there's bridge 35. So here's the instructions of how to do the 3 locks. So bottom lock should be empty, middle and top lock full. Make sure all paddles are closed, enter bottom lock, close gates and paddles. So that's if you're going uphill, and obviously the opposite end it tells you how to do it going downhill. Though I do believe there's another couple of locks straight after. So yeah, a whole barrage. Now you've got to think about it, if you're on a boat, one after another you've got to go through. I think it takes something like an hour and a half to do it. As we continue going down this flow of locks, we've come to the milestone 17. So that means we've only got 29 miles left to do on this Chesterfield Canal. And funny enough, this lock here is called Milestone Lock, and it is lock 29. So that means we've only got 36 locks to go past. By the look of it, as far as I can see locks. So there's 1, 2, I think there's another 4 as far as I can see at the moment. So I think we might see the all 65 before we actually even get to Worksop at this rate. We've got a nesting swan there. So here is Shire Oaks. We've got the Shire Oaks train station just there. Now, from what I gather, we go the other side of the bridge, and then once we cross that, we should be able to see the marina on our left hand side.
This is a replica Cuckoo Boat. You can see it doesn't have anything like those boats over there. It's in like a living area or even an engine. Now, it was actually made by hand and it took 4 years to build. As you can see, it's got the Dawn Rose. I believe it was 2004 they built it all by hand. There's actually 2 horses they use. I think one's called Charlie. I can't think of the other name of the other horse. 2 horses are renowned for pulling this Cuckoo Boat. The reason why they're called Cuckoo Boats, well, it's actually, I believe that the navvies that used to navigate along the river, they saw a sort of like version of this heading down the river, and they thought, well, that's a stupid thing. So the people actually thought they were mad or they were cuckoo, and that's where possibly the Cuckoo Boat name came from.
I think a bit of work is needed here. If you wanted a room with a sky view, then this is probably the perfect place for you. And that back room, well, let's just say I think that needs retiling.
So behind me we've got lock 45, Dowfield Dunlock. I think Dowfield is in reference to a waterway that probably connects to here. So I believe I'm actually there. Now we've come to another lock, so this should be lock 46 of the Chesterfield Canal, meaning that there's only going to be 19 more locks after this. Let's have a look. It is called Deep Lock. It's actually lock 47. So we've only got 18 more to go. And on our right hand side, this is called Marston's Inns. Now, from what I gather, that is where I'm staying. The lock keeper, Marston's Inn. There's a pub here. Well, that's better. I can get my dinner there. And I actually noticed that this part of the building is actually probably original, because you can see by the windows, the wooden windows and the door. So it's probably that was the lock keeper's cottage.